a round of ministers meeting union representatives to talk about strikes that have been affecting public services in England, including potential strikes involving those representing teachers and school staff. And the National Education Union is one of those unions currently balloting members on strike action. And Dr. Mary Bousted, their Joint General Secretary, is on the line now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So tell us about what you're expecting from the talks you're having today with the Education Minister. These presumably are not negotiations. What in your thinking, are they?
Well, they're not negotiations. What the Gillian Keegan, who's the Secretary of State for Education, has invited us to, all the union leaders, is a 1-hour meeting where she wants to explain to us the government's position on pay, and she wants to have a constructive conversation with us, listening to our concerns.
And what do you make of that invitation?
Well, the invitation is welcome. I mean, we haven't met the Secretary of State in person since she's taken office, so it's always welcome to have a meeting, and it is good that she wants to listen to our concerns. Beyond that, I don't know what the scope of the meeting is or what any further plans might be. Gillian Keegan has said that she wants us to explain to us the thinking behind the department's evidence to our pay review body on next year's pay award. That doesn't meet our issues, but we're willing to listen to what she has to say.
Well, what would meet your issues?
We need to have the trade dispute that we have with the Secretary of State is about the pay award for this year, which is completely inadequate. Most teachers got a 5% pay award, and we are balloting our members on that award. Now, obviously, we would be happy to talk about next year, but what the government has to make clear, what the department has to make clear, is that there is more money on the table for this year.
Do you, when you look in the round at what the government is saying now, are you at least encouraged by the fact that they are now keen to talk to you, whereas you say yourself they weren't in the recent past?
Well, that's a step ahead, absolutely. It's a step forward that they're willing to talk. I mean, we had our indicative ballot, our sort of internal union ballot, that was in November. So the government has known that we've been moving towards industrial action since October, and they have done nothing about it. And now we're at the stage where, for my union, we will get the ballot, a formal ballot result next week. So there have been months which have been wasted with the government not talking. And at least now we have a meeting. But I think we have to be realistic that this is an hour's meeting with quite a few trade union leaders, where both sides are going to be setting up their position, which actually is already well known. We know what the department's position is. We know what Gillian Keegan, her letter to the pay review body, what she tells them that the pay review body has to have a mind towards, which is affordability and not increasing inflation. So, we will be very interested to hear today whether there is any new money on the table, because that is the only thing which is going to resolve this dispute.
And if that new money were to be offered and were to be a one-off payment, which we seem to think, don't we, might be the government's thinking, not just in a potential dispute with you, but with some of the other disputes as well, is that potentially acceptable to you?
Well, I think a one-off payment is a very difficult thing to deal with, because it gives teachers and support staff some money now, but it doesn't increase their wages into the future. It doesn't build that increase into the future. And the fact of the matter is, teachers have lost 24% of their pay in real terms since 2010. Support staff have lost 27% of their pay in the same period. And that is causing a workforce crisis in schools. The Chief Inspector, Amanda Spielman, in her report released in December, said there is a workforce crisis in schools which is affecting pupils. Pupils are bearing the brunt of a workforce crisis. The workforce crisis is that 40% of teachers are leaving within 10 years. This year, the government only achieved just over half of its teacher training targets. We're not recruiting teachers, and we're not keeping them in the profession.
On the other hand, of course, when we're talking
causing
about damage to children, we've just had the pandemic and the awful damage done to them there and to their education. Does that slightly give you pause when it comes to potentially strike action?
Well, the last thing we want to do, we are teachers, we do not want to be harming children. But I have to tell you, Justin, that children are being harmed every day by the crisis and the catastrophe of the workforce shortages in our schools. 1 in 8 maths lessons is being taught routinely by a non-specialist. I was talking to a parent last week whose son is doing GCSE chemistry. There isn't a chemistry teacher in the school. 3 have left. He is preparing for GCSE chemistry through worksheets being taught by supply teachers. This is the catastrophe which is happening every day. And we have been trying to draw the government's attention to this for months, and they have not talked to us.
I'm interested in what you say about maths, because that, of course, was part of what Rishi Sunak was making a big thing about in a speech recently, wasn't it? We're all going to be doing maths, or all kids are, right up to the age of 18. It doesn't sound, from what you've just said, as if that is immediately feasible.
Oh, it's not immediately feasible. The government hasn't met its maths targets for over a decade, and the only way that it is getting closer to meeting its targets is because it's reduced the targets by over 20%. So, there are words and then there are deeds. Now, we are very pleased that there is a meeting today. We are experienced trade union negotiators. We will go in and we will present our case. But if the government is serious, they have to do 2 things. They have to put more money on the table now, and a one-off payment may sound superficially attractive, but that brings all sorts of problems with it. We want a pay rise which is incorporated into pay in a proper way. And secondly, they've got to commit to proper negotiations, because this is not just a crisis about the cost of living, although that is a crisis. This is a crisis which has been building for 12 years, as we have seen teachers leave our schools and children are left without the specialist teachers they need in order to fulfil their potential. Right. And the ones that are left have to work twice as hard because they're covering classes for teachers who are not qualified in the subjects they're teaching. It is a crisis. Parents will know about it. They see what their children are going through. And so if we take strike action, it's a last resort to say this cannot continue.
We'll have to leave it there. Dr. Mary Bousted, Joint General Secretary of the National Education Union. Thank you. That meeting with Gillian Keegan, that hour-long meeting, due to take place today.